This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, what's up? Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And welcome into the Onside Kick here on Most Valuable Podcast, your professional football podcast, which we talk NFL and we might talk XFL in the future because the AAF, or the Alliance, is a little bit dead right now. But we got some signees. The one big one I had to tell Dave about was his boy Gilbert, or Garrett Gilbert of the Apollos, got assigned by the Cleveland Browns. So he'll be backing up Baker. He'll be backing up Baker Mayfield. There were a couple other Alliance players that got signed also. But we got a jam-packed show for you guys today talking NFL draft. Before we get to the draft, we're, 2 weeks away, I believe, from the draft right now?
Yeah, sounds about right.
This week, next week, we'll have our last mock draft. This weekend, we're recording the Most Valuable Podcast live mock draft with
Can't wait.
Most of the guys here from MVP, most of the crew. And then, obviously, we'll have my full 7-round mock draft on the website. This is kind of where we hit you guys with a bunch of mock drafts right before everything. But before I get into what we're talking about today, make sure to check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. We redid our tiers, bronze, silver, and gold memberships. You get a ton for your, or you get really bang for your buck. Discord server, MVP podcast a month early. You also get mock drafts a week early. So this week, patrons are going to be able to see Mark and I's mock draft a week before we record it next week, next Tuesday. But Mark, jam-packed show, talking about Dwayne Haskins, talking about Josh Rosen, will he be traded, talking about the Bengals, will they draft a quarterback? It's a quarterback-heavy show. But the first thing I got to ask you, and I'm kind of throwing you a curveball, I didn't, what's the word I'm looking for? I didn't set you up for this. Did you see the Jets' new uniforms, by the way?
Oh, yeah, I did.
What were your thoughts on those? Because most people did not like them.
They're not terrible, but they're definitely not good.
Really? Am I the only one that likes them?
To me,
I think they're kind of cool.
And this kind of is what a lot of people's complaints are. Mm-hmm. They just look super generic.
Yeah, I could see that.
They look generic, and it also looks...
I just like the retro feel that they're trying to go with.
See, but I feel... And they do have a little bit of retroness to it, but I feel like they didn't do it well.
Okay. So you're saying they're doing it the wrong way, the bad way.
It's just... They're not terrible jerseys. They're just not really good.
Yeah, when I saw them, I showed Dave, and I'm like, those are kind of cool. They're not the
black
best.
one is the best.
I didn't see. All I saw was the dark green one, and the pure white one.
Yeah,
were the ones I saw, and I like now that it has the Jets across the helmet, kind of like the.
But they're
old
still
days.
Not using their logo.
No, they're
the
not.
The logo is
using
not used
logo.
anywhere.
I think they changed their logo because on NFL.com it kind of looked different.
Yeah, they changed it
than before. But let's get into our first topic. Let's talk Dwayne Haskins. And the reason why we are talking Dwayne Haskins is he could be falling in the draft. And this comes from the quote that I'm going to use comes from Lance Zierlein, an NFL draft analyst from NFL.com. He sent out a tweet. This would have been 2 days ago, so Friday, I believe. He said, after speaking with a few different teams, I definitely get the feeling that Dwayne Haskins' draft stock was more media-created than team-driven. I see Haskins falling on draft day, and I think the chances are increasing that he is not the second quarterback off the board. And with me, before I throw it to you, Mark, I agree with this, but I don't agree with it totally. Because will he fall? Technically, because he's not going to be the second quarterback off the board. I think Drew Lock is rising, and Drew Lock will become that second quarterback off the board. But I don't think Dwayne Haskins is going to be a Johnny Manziel situation or a Geno Smith situation. He's not going to fall all the way to 23 or out of the first round like both Geno Smith and Manziel did. What are your thoughts with Dwayne Haskins, and how far will he fall when we get to the draft?
I don't think he's really going to fall that far because I still think he is, even though I think he's probably a better option than Kyler Murray, I'm willing to say Kyler Murray probably gets drafted before Dwayne Haskins. I don't think that Drew Lock should be drafted before Dwayne Haskins. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I just don't. I don't like it. I don't see it. There's always somebody, though, that teams fall in love with post-combine. Nobody, well, I shouldn't say nobody, but very few people were talking about Drew Lock in the first round until post-combine. And now with teams having nothing really to do but watch game tape and watch the pro days and everything like that, suddenly people are starting to kind of fall in love with him a little bit. But at the same time, we have to remember, this is when you smokescreen. This is when you lie. This is when you tell the opposite of what you really want.
Or you're like the Cardinals and you don't say anything. Like you say some
to their
stuff,
own detriment. Yeah,
you're saying some stuff, but you're not giving any indication of what you may do.
The only thing they're doing is killing their quarterback's confidence.
Yeah. Well, he may be our guy. Well, he's our guy right now.
Yeah, exactly. So with Dwayne Haskins, I don't get. I understand that he's not that exciting. He's not Kyler Murray, and he kind of became QB1 by default for a little bit, especially when we all were like, well, Kyler Murray's going to play baseball.
Yeah.
He became the default number one guy. And I still think he's a really good quarterback. He is not that athletic, so like I know that's kind of a knock because that's really what people want now. Look at literally every quarterback who's been drafted in the past like 3-4 years. We like mobile quarterbacks at this point. So he doesn't really have that. But beyond that, the only other real true knock that I have against him is the experience. But we draft quarterbacks with only 1 year of experience all the time. He's got some kind of mechanic issues, not necessarily in his motion, but in some of those kind of throwing mechanics. He's got some weird things there. But those are all things that should be able to be fixed.
Yeah. It's not a Tim Tebow thing either. And I always bring up Tim Tebow because he was the one where...
That was unfixable.
It was the jankiest of where he would start here at the chest, do a complete like circle motion.
It's like a baseball pitcher.
To where it was like by the time you get the ball up to throw, the cornerback or safety knows where you're going.
Dwayne Haskins' issues are more after he throws the ball.
Yeah.
That he has some weird things in. That's not going to be a huge issue for a team. The problem for most of these teams, though, is if he does go too high, he's, like I said, he's not mobile, so that can be an issue. So maybe actually him falling back a little bit could be a good thing because he could go to a team that has a better offensive line.
And that's why, for me, I feel like when we're talking about him falling... Yet again, I'm going to reiterate this.
He's still a top 15 pick.
He is not going to... He could even still be a top... I think he'll be a top 10 pick.
To me, he's still a top 10 pick. It's just that 15 is like that last spot where someone needs a quarterback.
I still think he's going in the top 10. And the reason why I say that is he's not going to be like Geno Smith. He's not falling out of the first round. And I feel like what's going to happen is this. We had him like Lance Zierlein's tweet said, more media-driven than team-driven. Ever since the draft process started, we've had him pegged at number 6. Like, he has been at number 6 to the New York Giants because the Raiders never showed big interest. Like, yeah, they're going to do their due diligence and work with all the quarterbacks, but we didn't get a sense of they really like him. We never thought that he was going to go number 1. We never thought that he had, like... He wasn't... If Kyler Murray went to baseball, Dwayne Haskins was not a pick that the Cardinals would make over a Quinnen Williams, over a Nick Bosa.
Arguably, both those teams do not need quarterbacks.
Exactly. Kyler Murray's just different because of the Cliffberry connection and how Cliffberry said he liked Kyler Murray a lot. And
Kingsbury.
Then also... Yeah, Kingsbury. I said Cliffberry. Kingsbury likes Kyler Murray. Plus, John Gruden has said how he likes Kyler Murray. So that's the only reason why we're talking about him going there. I think with Dwayne, though, it's something where the Giants just, like, we peg him
they
into
just need
the
a quarterback.
Giant pick.
And it's
a
good spot because it's not that they don't like him.
I think they're gonna go with either Drew Lock or Daniel Jones. And
I think there's a good chance they're gonna just take a defensive player because Gettleman says, I don't give a shit. We take whoever I feel like.
And that's what I'm saying. Like with me, I feel like what the Giants are gonna do is if they take a quarterback at 6, it's gonna be Drew Lock. If they don't, they're going to kind of roll the dice and say, well, if we don't, we'll take Daniel Jones at 17.
Here's the thing about that. People are all of a sudden, out of nowhere, saying, Drew Lock, no, that's the number 2 quarterback, not Dwayne Haskins. But here's the thing about that. If our complaint is that Dwayne Haskins his draft stock was driven by media, not by teams. All of a sudden, media saying, no, Drew Lock is the number 2 quarterback. Well, that's the exact same situation.
But I think that's coming more from more from what we're seeing with the teams now.
But we're not really seeing any teams really in love with Drew Lock either.
I think the only one we've seen is the Giants, and that's the only one that matters to me. Because to me, the Raiders and Cardinals, the only way they're going quarterback is if they take Kyler Murray. If Kyler Murray doesn't go to either of those teams, someone's going to trade up into the top 5 to try to get him. And I think at the end of the day, what happens? When it comes to the Giants, they will not take Dwayne Haskins. They will either take Drew Lock at 6, or they're rolling the dice to take Daniel Jones
and that's
at 17.
been the one that Drew Lock. I don't think I have seen very few connection of Drew Lock and New York. The connection I keep seeing for New York is Daniel Jones at 17.
And that's why I think Dwayne Haskins, he's going to fall to either one of 3 teams. He's either going to fall to the Bengals at 11, or either the Dolphins or the Redskins. I'm looking at the Redskins because we're going to talk about the Redskins a lot this podcast.
Although Redskins also, rumor has it, are trying to possibly trade for Josh Rosen.
Bingo. But if, let's say, the Cardinals don't trade Josh Rosen and we get to draft night, see, that's the whole thing. We're going to talk about the Redskins in the next segment because they've got the big interest in Josh Rosen. Let's say the Cardinals don't trade Josh Rosen. What I could see the Redskins doing, because they're one of the teams that this week is working out Dwayne Haskins, I could see them trading up into the top 10 above the Bengals, above the Broncos, because the Broncos are another team that's kind of
sitting. They could take one. Yeah,
they're sitting there kind of working out these quarterbacks. They're just working them out, saying, "All right, we don't need it, but how long are we going to have Joe Flacco? Is Joe Flacco really the future here?" So they've been kind of working out these quarterbacks too. Plus, you got the Lions, smokescreen central. When months ago they said, "Well, we could take a quarterback. We got Matthew Stafford, but we could still take a quarterback to be behind him." So, to me, I think Dwayne Haskins kind of goes in that range. He's either going to go to the Bengals at 11, or a team like the Dolphins or the Redskins trades up to get him in the top 10.
I still have a feeling, though, with some of this Giant stuff, not to harp on it, is they've been connected to Drew Lock now. They've been connected to to Daniel Jones. They're kind of not getting connected to Dwayne Haskins. It could be very easy for the Giants to be trying very hard right now to say, we're completely fine waiting until 17 to take a quarterback. You don't need to trade above us because we're not even going to take one.
And we're also talking about the team.
Smokescreen in that case.
Well, you're also talking about the team that's like, there's no way we're trading OBJ, and then they trade OBJ.
Yeah, it'd be very easy for them to say, we're completely fine with one of those quarterbacks. Don't worry. We have zero interest in Kyler Murray or Dwayne Haskins. We don't want one of those guys. You don't need to trade above us at all. And then maybe they will. Maybe they'll take their pick.
And from what I'm seeing just by looking on Google to see what some sources are saying, when you look at Drew Lock, the big thing that comes up is he's going to have a pre-draft visit with the Broncos this week. There's also another one that the mock draft where the Raiders take him. I don't know if the Raiders are going to take him at 4. But then when you look at Daniel Jones, the big thing is Giants. Is he going to be their first-round target? And the thing that's interesting, you say don't want to harp on the Giants. I think they're the team we have to harp on because they're the linchpin in this. I was going through starting my mock draft for next week, and in the top 6 picks, the linchpin is the Cardinals because whatever they do at 1 will obviously affect the rest of the draft. That next linchpin is the Giants. What do they do? Do they trade back? Do they take a non-quarterback? Do they go with a quarterback? And how is that going to affect the needy quarterback teams of the Bengals, of the Dolphins, of the Redskins, of the Broncos, who are still working out these quarterbacks? So, with me, Dwayne Haskins, I don't think he's fallen that far. At the best I've seen is a slide. And there's even an article that I put in our kind of rundown because it was interesting to me, is that Trent Dilfer actually talked to Albert Beer of SI. And he said, I'll just read the SI article right here. Former NFL quarterback and Elite 11 head coach Trent Dilfer told SI's Albert Beer that he sees similarities between Ohio State's Dwayne Haskins and Tom Brady, a 6-time Super Bowl champion. Dilfer previously worked out with Haskins at his Elite 11 recruiting camp, and here's the exact quote from Dilfer. "I thought Dwayne should have waited, but he's the most like Tom Brady of anyone we've had. He sees it like Tom. He works at it like Tom. He plays that way. He plays on time with his intellectual process. I don't want to compare anyone to Brady, but that's
exactly what I'm doing.
But he's Tom Brady-ish." Mm-hmm. What do you think when you hear a quote like that from Trent Dilfer?
To me, what I hear is, I really want to get this headline because I want people to pay attention to me. Mm-hmm. Whenever someone's comparing someone to the greatest of all time, I'm sorry, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. We get one of these constantly of someone being compared to Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, and it's just a throwout. And Trent Dilfer, I'm not trying to talk down on Trent Dilfer's skills here, but he's not necessarily seen as one of the scout experts. Mm-hmm. So for him to just go out there and say, yeah, he reminds me of Tom Brady purely because he's going to fall and he's smart, mm-hmm. doesn't mean anything. Because you look at what he's actually saying when he's describing Dwayne Haskins, there was a whole lot of words and a whole lot of no substance being said.
See, I think there's a key little bit of piece in there where with me, let's say I'm a team mm-hmm. that worked out Dwayne Haskins and I hear this quote, the first thing I do is I go to our scouts and I go to the guys that kind of compile everything and I go, hey, how was he on the board? Pull up his board work. Let's go over that. Because mm-hmm. to me, when he's talking about...
If you're an NFL scout, you've already done that, though.
When he's talking about mm-hmm. the process and how he thinks about things and he approaches the game the same way as Tom, I go back and I look at the notes we have on him from his board work, and if that matches up, then I look at it and go, okay, is he onto something? Is he not?
But there's no way that Trent Dilfer knows that over your actual scouts. Mm-hmm. Your scouts have done their homework. They know if he compares to Tom Brady.
I think
Trent Dilfer is just trying to get a headline.
I think everybody's the same way. Like, it's all guesswork from everybody.
Yeah,
but that's what I would do.
Let's be real. Scouts, these are people who get paid mm-hmm. to do it. Some of them suck, sure, but most of them are going to know better than mm-hmm. Trent Dilfer, a guy who just was a quarterback.
Now, see, the one thing I'll ask you, mm-hmm. Do you take it with a grain of salt that he actually worked with Dwayne Haskins at that recruiting camp?
I actually think that makes him more biased because that's saying this is his guy. He has an attachment to him. He doesn't care about Kyler Murray or Drew mm-hmm. Lock. He doesn't care about Daniel Jones. He cares about this guy. Mm-hmm. And I think the comparison to whenever somebody falls, people are like, oh, Tom Brady fell, or if they take a quarterback in the 3rd round, there's no reason this guy can't be good. Tom Brady was taken in the 6th round. Mm-hmm. One, Tom Brady was not expected to be, at one point, a top 5 pick like Dwayne Haskins was. And 2, Tom Brady is 1 in a million for a reason. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen.
And it's just a slippery slope to compare anyone to Tom Brady.
Exactly.
Even if you want to say, oh, he has the same tools that Tom has, it's a slippery slope.
And arguably, a lot of people would say that's actually kind of an insult to Dwayne Haskins mm-hmm. to say he's a really good guy, like a really good quarterback, if he's got a really good coach and a really good system built around him. Because mm-hmm. even though Tom Brady, I said it just a little bit ago, greatest of all time quarterback, but there's still a lot of people out there who would say, yeah, but Bill Belichick's what's doing it.
Yeah.
So arguably that could actually be an insult.
And the reason why people say that is when Tom was suspended, when Tom was injured, the team wasn't
just
terrible.
As good.
Like
team was just the same.
Correct me if I'm wrong, comment section out there. Matt Castle brought them to the playoffs, or almost brought them to the playoffs in the year that Tom Brady was injured.
Jimmy G got paid big bucks because of what he did in, 3 games?
And Jacoby Brissett got traded to a new team because of what he did. I don't think he won that game, but he still played well mm-hmm. with Tom Brady being out. So, yeah, with me, the only thing I would look at that is, like, if I'm the Giants and I see that, and if Dwayne Haskins is even in my discussion at 6, I look back, okay, what were our notes when he was on the board? And we were throwing the intellectual stuff, mm-hmm. like the things that would come into how he prepares game to game. because then I would be like, okay, am I missing something here?
Yeah.
And I would at least do that due diligence.
I just don't think there's any way an NFL team is basing what they do scouting-wise off of what Trent Dilfer says.
True. It's never one guy.
And I think they've already done their homework on him if they want a quarterback. But two, this easily could be, we're talking about smoke screens, this easily could be Trent Dilfer saying, my guy's starting to fall. The love is coming off of him. His draft stock's dropping. Let me put some love
on
put
him.
this in there. Let me put something out there that people are going to say, ooh, Tom Brady, we want one of those.
Yeah, and I'm going to see, does it say why he was talking to SI?
Because who doesn't want to talk to Trent Dilfer?
No, it doesn't say. It was just saying he was talking to SI's Albert Beerer. That he sees the similarities in Dwayne Haskins and Tom Brady. But the thing I'll ask you before we move on, is there any final thoughts or things you think we didn't hit with Dwayne Haskins and his possible slide in the first round?
It's totally possible that he slides, but I do think that a lot of this seems a little conveniently, a lot of this seems very convenient with his fall and the rise of guys like Daniel Jones
and Drew Lock.
And Drew Lock can actually be a first round quarterback, but to me, Daniel Jones is too much. So I'm like, you're being a little heavy handed.
Yeah,
you're at the poker table and you're like, oh, I got a great hand, everybody. This hand is so good. Whew, I've never seen a card this. I've never seen cards dealt this good before. I'm gonna go and raise a little bit.
Yeah.
You're really trying to sell the bluff, and I don't know that I buy it.
Yeah, maybe that's it from the Giants. Maybe they're trying to sell a little bit of Daniel Jones to maybe get a team that goes, hey, well, if they like Daniel Jones, why aren't we? What did we miss? And maybe get a team to like, hey, we could use Daniel Jones. We could use a quarterback, but hey, we got Eli. Let's work a deal out. Like, they could use it to maybe trade back at 6.
I think it's just you don't need to trade above us is what I think they're doing. Saying we want this guy at 17.
They can have their pick of the litter after Kyler Murray.
So nobody had, whether it's Dwayne Haskins, whether it's Drew Lock, you don't need to trade above us. We're not even going to take a quarterback. You'll still get him.
Which is weird. It's weird only because, like, the one team I know we've talked about them before. We'll probably talk a little bit about them next week. The Jets. I think they need to make a trade because they need picks in the later rounds.
But that doesn't mean that the Giants don't make that trade.
Exactly.
If it's just to say, you guys don't need to trade up because we're not doing it, and then we trade. Look at how secretive the Chicago Bears were when they traded Mitch up. Nobody knew they even met with Mitch because it was all a big secret. The head coach didn't even know that Ryan Pace was meeting with Mitch because that's how much he wanted it.
Because John Fox was going to get canned.
He didn't. Well,
that's why he didn't know.
There's that, but it's also they didn't want anybody to know. They made. If I remember the story right, they made him really hide his face and whatever when he was going to that restaurant that they met with.
Yeah,
it was a big secret. That's what these GMs are trying to deal with.
Because no one wants to let their poker hand be shown, like you were saying. Like, oh, I got the good hand. I don't want to show my cards before we get to draft night. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think down below. Is this all kind of a smokescreen? Is Dwayne Haskins going to be the second QB off the board? Does he slide? How far does he slide? Let us know what you guys are thinking down below.